Welcome everyone. This session is called Black Belt Security with Windows 10. This session has a history of its own because this session was in TechEd Barcelona, and kind of even before I had no idea what I'm talking about here, I had someone ask me if I would like to repeat this in Ignite, more for the US audience, and I said, yeah, of course I will. And then after agreeing to do that, I later on figured out that they had actually, without asking me, added the with Windows 10 in the name. Now, you might first think that's wise from them, but I think in this case that's not that wise. That only means that I'll have to show you that all the cracks still work on Windows 10 as well. So, well, they did it. Their fault, okay? I have a bit different view on the hacking the operating system thing, as you've got a whole track of security stuff going on with different sorts of malware and trying to inject stuff in your computer and things like that. But I'm a pure OS guy, meaning that I do my presentations always on operating system weaknesses. And I had a really nice comment on Facebook just a few hours before this started when someone said that now it had like a picture of the slide saying that mitigate everything with Windows 10 device guard. And I just replied to it that like, come to this session and you'll see that device guard doesn't mitigate anything. Well, it does, but nothing on this session. So it has its purpose. It'll be a great addition to our Windows. I love it already, even though they are talking about it all the time, but we don't have a single user interface to use it with. So it's, of course, still considered promiseware until we see that it actually works. But it will not help you on anything that we're going to use today, basically. So that's a bit different mindset on how to hack a machine. Before we get started, I've seen many of you on my previous sessions, so a short introduction. My name is Sami Laiho. I'm from Finland. I teach anything related to Windows operating systems, security, and troubleshooting. So travel about 200 days this year teaching, so mainly teaching now, but I do some consulting as well. Got my own company called Adminize.com, and I'm working also for the biggest training company in Finland called Sovelto. I'm an MVP in the core operating system. I've been such for 5 years, I think. As for the previous two sessions, I still have some luggage logistics to do, because traveling through London Heathrow and opening a bag with 300 beanies was a bit of a weird, like, what do you do with these? Like, well, this is better. Last time in TechEd US, I had a 15-inch wrench with me, which was for the BitLocker session. So that was like, I instantly saw there was a sign saying that you can take one bag, you can take one carry-on, and what else can you take plus one carry-on? Personal item. Exactly. So instantly they opened up the back, of course, because they saw it on the X-ray, and they were like, what's this? Personal item? You shouldn't joke with those guys. So I was like, what do you do? I didn't help fix computers with that. Yeah. I tried my best, and I told them that we call it the universal decryption key. Can penetrate any BitLocker. Okay, so we have swag. We had T-shirts the year before. Last year we had caps, and now we have beanies. So rules are, after the session, beanies are here. I need a business card and a steady, solid promise from you that you fill the evals, okay? There's about 100 left. I had some great pictures from yesterday's party. People wearing those. It was like, just made my day. All right. As always, we're going to start with some Finnish lessons. So you should now, if you've been to the previous sessions, you should know that I always teach my audience some Finnish because Finland is a really small country, so we need to spread the word. People have been telling me that it seems that Finnish people are very good in just like combining words into one word, but we are actually a lot more efficient than that, because if you see this conversation here taking place in English, so from a midsummer party in Finland, someone says assemble the whole bonfire, and the other one answers like the whole bonfire. But in Finnish we can do this with 2 letters only. Because in Finnish it's koko, koko, kokko, koko, kokkoko. So if you're really talking about efficiency, that's efficiency, I'd say. 2 letters, 2 letters, whole conversation, okay? Some of my projects, I got a blog site. People have been asking a lot about my blog. Yesterday was a really funny session I had on troubleshooting. I had a general troubleshooting session the year before, and I thought I'll just take a small part of that session and spend 75 minutes on that small portion of a session, so it should be easy. And I timed it at the hotel and everything, but then I got a bit carried away and finally finished like half of my deck. So if you want to read more stories about that, you can just go to my blog site and you can download the PowerPoints. For you that were there yesterday, remember there are a lot of more slides than we actually got through, so there's a lot to read. First of all, let's take a short raise of hands. Who here is from Norway? Ooh. I didn't really expect. Okay, I had no idea there's so many of you. There's a limit. You can't come here. You have to stay on your seats. Okay. We're going to talk about human factors first, because always when you talk about security, you have to talk about the human factor first. Then we're going to talk about proactive security and how it beats reactive security. Many CEOs have said that reactive security will not be able to protect you in year 2015, so meaning antivirus, anti-malware, and stuff like that. Okay. And then we're going to try to penetrate the system in different ways. I'm going to try and build a story around a guy first getting access to a local box and then elevating his access to the domain level and etc. So we'll try to build up from the single box to the whole environment. But first about the human factor. So meanwhile in Norway, now you have your time of fame. This took place in Oslo just before TechEd Europe 2014, and I went to the hotel in Oslo, and I got a key to my room and went up to the 6th floor, tried my key, didn't work, went down, got a new key, put it back used it for the door, didn't work, went down for the 3rd time, got a new key, went up, didn't work, and I was getting quite pissed already. And then I went down, and the guy was like, you don't have to go again up, and I'll come with you because there's a battery in the door, so it's probably just, the battery is empty, so I'll come with the charger now. And he came up with the charger and charged the thing and put the key in and didn't work. So he was like, okay, I'm going to let you settle in. So I'm going to let you in with my key, and you can settle in, and when you come back next time, you get a new key. So it took me until midnight. And I went down, and there was a really young girl working alone in the lobby. So I asked her that, could I get another key? And she gave me another key. I went up, couldn't get in, went down again. And told her that, you know, these keys are made of wood. And they are really thin. But a friend of your colleague was using a thicker plastic key. So I think it's a contact issue or something, so it's not working. So could you make me a room key which is made of plastic instead of wood? And she was like, no, I'm not sure. I have to go to the back room. She went to the back room, and then she came back to me, gave me a key, and said, here's a key, but you can't tell anyone because it works on all doors. So there's there's a picture of me with the master key. So my first selfie ever. I took a selfie and sent it to the country lead in Norway of that hotel chain, and then to the CEO of the whole chain in the world, and sent it via email that I'm here on the 6th floor with a master key to 298 rooms. What do you want to do about it? And they were like, it took about half an hour, and they came to get the key from me, and then I had a security briefing with their security officers the next day. And the hotel manager came to me and said that she's been working in hotels for 20 to 30 years or something like that, and she's never heard of this happening, so she's super sorry. And I know the girl was trying to help me. I honestly didn't want to get her fired, but she was alone there, lots of people, had to react fast, so I'm like, it's not her blame, because it was actually her manager that was supposed to destroy the key immediately, because they had a contractor working, renovating the hotel, and they had a master key. And that master key is, by their policy, required to be destroyed instantly when it's returned. So it was actually her manager that didn't destroy the key while it was laying in the back room on the table. And then she gave it to me. And the country manager really knew how to play this game, because she asked me, what can we do to keep you happy and not going to the newspapers? And I, of course, being myself, I told that I think there are only 3 times in a gentleman's life that his name should be on a newspaper: when he's born, when he marries, and when he dies. Well, I didn't say that, but I wish I would have. It sounded so cool on a movie I just saw, but I really hope I would have had the guts to say it, but I didn't. I just said something like, I believe in good karma, so I do good things come to me, or something like that. But the part where she knew how to play it was, so you're happy, I'm just happy. What about the wife? Good point. My wife might appreciate a free weekend in Europe or something. And then they gave me a free gift card that we actually just a month ago spent in Copenhagen on a penthouse suite, so good. Anyway, so you don't feel so bad if you're from Norway. I'll have another one. Meanwhile, in Finland, this might be as horrifying as that. The Finnish people here, I know there's a lot of, but you don't have to raise your hands. Let's pretend we're only picking on Norwegian. So, what happened in Finland was that there was this guy who was actually building a biggest car shop in the world. He was trying to build this huge shopping center full of different car dealers. And he was trying to get funding for it, but now the city said that you're going to have to stop the project. The only thing he had built so far was a huge tower with the company's name. And he had nothing else built, but he ran out of money. So now he needed to get some funding. So actually, this happened in Finland last year. So the CEO of the company got an offer from a man in UK to transfer 30 million euros to him to fund the project. And it was on the newspapers that now he has funding. At that point, of course, we didn't know what was the source of the funding, but they said now they have funding and they're going to continue. And then they started digging into, when the bank needed some more information, they started digging into, and the money was actually from Regina Chilupa, who is a widow of the former Zambian president, Frederick Chilupa. Not bad. Not bad at all. So the Finnish guy, of course, sent 336,000 euros to fund the transaction. I didn't know it's so freaking expensive to send money. But 336,000 euros. Well, luckily Finnish banks are not that stupid, so the cops actually stopped it. So there's an official that stopped the transaction. So his transaction was frozen as a security measure. No one's sending to an unknown source in UK 336,000 euros. Got to be kidding me. So they stopped it. What does the CEO do? Gets the money back, of course, and then sends it again. So that's how we do it in Finland. I have proof for you that there actually is the tower. I took a picture from it. This was the first time I had to ask for a permission from a party in Finland that I can show you this picture, because we just had the election in Finland, and the different parties are trying to be really active to get to every place to meet people and get them to vote them. And one party actually surprised me because they actually had their stand, let's see, next to the tower. No one lives there, but there's actually a Finnish party with their stand next to the tower. So they really did go everywhere. But that's Sany Car Center, so that's the only thing that's still standing because Chilupa somehow didn't really provide the money anyway. So now we got through the actual, the most important thing. Everything ends up being hacked by social engineering anyway, so we've all now established that we're not going to talk about that so much anymore. We're more going to go into the Windows OS and its weaknesses itself, okay? I said it already, proactive is something that you have to change from reactive to. I'm implementing AppLocker a lot, and when I implement AppLocker, people kind of start first being quite skeptical, and they're asking me, like, we have to do so much work with AppLocker. Like, no, you're doing it wrong. And I'll show you later on how to do it better. But the thing is that people are like complaining to me that we use time. Whenever we get a new software, we have to add it to our lists or add another software folder or something like that. I lost the mic. No? I'm back on. Okay. So I always tell them, before you start complaining about that, implement AppLocker and now count how much you spend time on reacting to malware alerts. Because usually if you get AppLocker implemented the correct way, you don't really have to spend that much time there. You're saving the time, and you're saving more time than without AppLocker. First of all, we have to start and look at how this proactive stuff can be implemented in Windows. So I don't want you to be going home from here just seeing this scaring tactic. I think kind of many sessions are about just scaring people on how we can penetrate stuff. It's not. I'd like to see more like solving how to stop that from happening. So we're trying to go step by step, but also go through how to stop it as well. So now we're talking about permission levels, which you know is my favorite topic, probably because I had a session on it on Wednesday. It not only saves you from malware, but also keeps your computer clean and running better and performing better and gives you a better and longer lifetime for your operating system as well. Proactive solutions don't rely on any updates, fingerprints, stuff like that. So reactive solutions have something they call heuristics, but it's a minor part of it. So mostly they're still relying on someone else first finding something, and then others will find it. So it's always reactive and it's always late, which is of course sad. Now proactive means stuff like whitelisting, IPsec. So whitelisting meaning AppLocker in Microsoft's case, running only limited users, using correct level of admin permissions and stuff like that. Notes from the field. This is what I get because my consulting is mainly taking away people's admin rights. So this is what I hear all the time. People are quite happy with only 25% having admin rights. If we go 10 years back, it might have been 75, so we're getting into a better place, especially when moving from XP to the next OS. So it's getting better, but still, like this was, when I first heard this, it was a company which has over 100,000 seats. So it's still like 20,000 people running admin rights. So it, of course, depends on the size, how well they're doing. 25% anyway. Only our laptop users have admin rights. That's what I hear a lot. So laptop users are not that easy to administer with SCCM, remote desktop, TeamViewer, whatever you're doing, because they might be out of bounds. They might be out of the network. You can't reach them. What I hear a lot is also we don't use firewalls on the internal network still, although luckily many are moving towards direct access, for example, so they have to have the firewall enabled a bit more than before, but still people are just shutting down the local firewalls inside of a network, which is horrific if we're talking about proactive security. That's terrible. Executives get admin rights. That's just a test I do whenever I have a consulting gig like this. I'll ask them. First thing, do you have the balls to say to your CEO, if he tells you that he needs to get admin rights, can you tell him that no, he can't get it? I hope most of you are just like, yeah, we can, but for everyone it's not that easy. There's still a lot of people who think that the executives can get what they want because they can fire you. It's not that easy to always take it away from them. I met a guy in US who was actually CTO of a big company, and they were walking before me to the airplane, and the other guy turns to business class, and the other guy turns to first class. And then they stopped, like the other one yells to the other, "Whoa, what are you doing? You're not allowed to travel in first class. We only get to travel in business class. So you're not allowed to go to first class." "No, I am allowed." "How?" "Well, I told the CEO that if you're going to use an iPad, I'm going to fly in first class." Easy. So they have different sorts of rights than we do. We tried whitelisting but gave up. I have an example from year 2009. I started a whitelisting project with a company that their whitelist actually consisted of 8,000 lines of executables. So no wonder it might feel like a hard one to manage. Got down to about 2,000 after taking that list and putting it into Excel and using find duplicates because there was only 2,000 different applications, but everyone is just like learned that it might be because of this whitelist thing. So they keep adding the stuff again and again and again. And of course unmanageable because of the sheer size of the list. The same environment nowadays running with less than 30 rules. So AppLocker can be deployed in very horrible ways and a lot better ways. Mac and Linux are good because they don't need antivirus. Well, we've all heard that, and we've all heard the news during the last year, and they have a lot of malware already. So that's like an old news. We'll start first by going through the most important one. You cannot do a secure Windows computer without BitLocker. There is no way you can create a secure Windows computer without hardware encryption. So if you are doing some else hardware encryption, let's say another product to do hardware encryption, then I'm fine with that. But let's say that you can't do it without hardware encryption, BitLocker or something else. Let's start with that, and then we'll go through other examples that I just told you. So my laptop currently, I'm using it as an example for my customers. I'm been asked to write a blog series on securing laptops, and I'm running my computer with, actually it has a firewall on because I need the direct access, but it has all ports opened. So I opened up all ports on my computer. And it also has no antivirus running, which is horribly difficult to do with Windows 8.1 because you have to actually have a scheduled task that shuts down the Defender all the time because it just freaking doesn't stay off if you ask it. So am I scared or not? I travel 200 days a year, but I'm not scared at all because instead of that, I've got stuff in place. So my computer is actually using AppLocker whitelisting, so I don't have any admin rights to bypass that easily, which means that I only run software that I have beforehand accepted to run on my computer. Way better than any firewall, I'm running IPsec, which means that I don't talk to anyone that I don't trust, meaning that I don't talk to any one of you unless you have a certificate given by my PKI. I'd say that's a lot better solution than deciding out of the 65,000 plus ports of what should be open or not. Okay. No admin rights. I can't disable my own protections. BitLocker always on. I'm only using TPM. I don't have a PIN code. I don't have a USB key. I have a current operating system, a current supported operating system, meaning that I'm running Windows 8.1 currently. I never buy a computer that has DMA ports. That's the main thing for me. I will never buy a computer that has Thunderbolt or FireWire. So it's hard to even sometimes find stuff that has everything else you need but doesn't have any of those ports. So that's your biggest enemy if you have to pick one. Never get a computer with ports that support DMA. That's basically destroys your security anyway. So people call me, would you like to come to our company and consult us a little bit? So we'd like to implement BitLocker. I always, as a rude Finn, I will just reply, you're too late, bye. And I hope they have a sense of humor and they call me back. It's not working always. Bad for business, trying to be a smart guy. What I mean with that is that implementing BitLocker starts with choosing your devices. So usually they are calling me because they now suddenly realize they need BitLocker and they want to enroll it in their environment, but they have already usually chosen the wrong machines. Because you have to have certain hardware which will make it easy and nice to use BitLocker, but keep it secure as well. Oops. Yeah, I think that's about it. Applications readily available to crack passwords, steal BitLocker keys, whatever. And of course, Windows will have its own ways of getting into the operating system. We're going to start off with demos now. So first we're going to talk about why we need encryption in the first place. I'm going to do a demo which I dared to guess that you should have seen during this conference, at least on some security sessions, so that you wouldn't be mad at me of repeating stuff that you've already seen. Unless the guys and a lady have copied it from me, this should have a different twist to it, because I have a personal way of doing the same thing, so I hope you get something new from this as well. So I have a Windows 10 box here, as they requested. Okay, let's do this the fun way. Let's see what users we have here. We've got an administrator, first name, which are both admin accounts. So let's actually block me from knowing my own password. So let's do net user, administrator, something, and a random variable, maybe some numbers. Now the good thing is that the random variable changes every single time I use it, so I have no idea what my password is. It's something between 1 and 32,768, but I have no idea what number, okay? So I'm just blocking myself out of the box to make this a bit more interesting. Let's do the same thing for first name. Oh, that's actually... Oh yeah, that's my live ID. I was wondering, like, why do I have a user named first name? It's my live ID. Don't worry about that one. Now I told some of you this already, that was supposed to be a really good thing, that I had to come up with the demo account that I use on all my demonstrations. So I created a live ID called firstname.lastname@live.fi. Didn't end up being such a smart move because I get no email from anyone. They are sending me email and then they call me like, it's bouncing back. Like, where are you sending it? Sami.laiho. No, first name, F-I-R-S-T. It's really not that easy, okay? Let's boot this machine with any sort of installation media. Doesn't really matter what the version is or whatever. So let's just choose a installation media. I'll take an ISO for, let's take Windows 10 now that we're running Windows 10. So let's take Windows 10. It can be anything Windows Vista or after that. And then let's just reboot the box. Now that that's restarting, let's wait for a second so we can see the question for booting from a DVD, and let it boot up. While we're doing that, let's see how we crack Windows 10 or any other operating systems currently. So let's open up Process Monitor. So Procmon, open that up. Yes, please. And what I'll do is I'll actually create a filter called Show Me Anytime an Operation is a Process Create. Oops. I almost forgot to add it. Okay. I have it running on another user probably. Let's see if we've got it here. I think we do. If not, I'll show it to you on Windows 10. Okay, let's take that afterwards then. So I was going to show you how to find the weak processes. What I was going to do was actually just log off and try to hit the keyboard with any sort of combinations I can come up with, and then log back on and see what sort of executables are running on the box before anyone logs on. So when you hit Windows U, Windows P, Shift key, whatever, so what kind of processes you can just get there. That's what I did when we were downloading Windows 10, because we have this competition in Finland who cracks Windows 10 the quickest. Luckily, I got thrown out of an MVP meeting at the same time, so I was the only one who was actually downloading them instantly. So I downloaded them first. So actually, I won my colleagues in Finland this year. It took 1 minute and 40 seconds to crack. So, but I had a really good 1 gig internet connection, so that helped a lot on that project. So oh my God, what am I doing installing? I don't want to install anything. Let's press Shift F10. So Shift F10 is the shortcut to getting to a command prompt. And let's go here and add something you can see. So let's do this. Oops, back here. I don't want to install anything. Okay, let's find my Windows. C, no, D, yes. Windows System 32, and I'll do this in a certain way and you'll later know why. zhc.exe, I will copy it to the Windows folder, okay? You could do this in the really cool way, which would be to open the registry and find the image file execution options and hack your box like that, but it's way slow. So this is the quick Finnish dirty way of hacking a computer, not the cool-looking way, okay? Let's copy it to a safe place. I mean, I'm helping a friend out here. I'm not hacking into a company computer, which I could skip that one, but now I'm trying to help a friend, so I want to have a backup. And then I'll just copy the cmd.exe on top of zhc.exe. And now, why zhc.exe? That we can tell already now. That's because that's supported on all operating systems, including Windows Server 2003 and XP. As usually people are using the utilman.exe, but that's only supported from Vista in 2008. So this one works on all operating systems, including Windows 10 domain controllers as well. Let's not boot from the DVD. I guess there's quite many people that are older than me, meaning that you have been working with computers longer than I have, which means that you have played around with stuff like Commodore 64. And I'm so many times I remember the old good days when we still could use physical force to fix computers. Nowadays it's not really fun anymore. My dad used to import computers from US. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of a company called IBC, Integrated Business Computers or something like that, but it used to be in the US like during the 80s, and he imported computers to Finland, and he taught me how to fix monitors, you know, like hitting them. And then I was 16 and I went to work for PepsiCo, global company, and they had this, at that time, like huge 24-inch monitors for their graphics departments that cost like freaking $20,000. And the first time the new IT guy comes in, oh, you have a problem with that? No! Don't hit the monitor. But this kind of gives you the same thing. You remember when you copied your games by a 2-deck cassette recorder, and it was so fun. And if you ran out of your disk space, you cut a hole in the diskette and you get twice the amount of space. Like, I love it. I think the USB keys should be, you should be able to just cut them in half and get the double space. Okay, so now you can use brute force in a cool way. So when you can't get into the box, you just hit on the shift key as fast and hard as you can, so you can get the command prompt. Okay, and as that might be a bit hard to see, you could do net user whatever, but I'm actually so lazy that I think I'm just going to do this. I don't even create a local computer. I'm just going to run computermanagement.msc. I think it's easier for you to see it, so let's use a graphical tool instead of net users. So now we have system access to the box, and let's go and see who our own administrators are. And let's actually add my user account here from the Active Directory. The good thing, of course, being that this is running Mrs. System, which means that Mrs. System is part of authenticated users, which means that she can actually read the Active Directory just fine. So she will find my username, which is a normal user now, but now we'll just elevate that to an admin. Okay, and then let's log on. If you want to see it or the video later, then that's Mrs. System, and let's change to user. So that should be elevated to an administrator right now. But now we just elevated to this computer. So we just hacked into one box. So now we'll have to start thinking about how to get up the ladder a bit. Let's change back to the slides. So we need encryption because it's one word, one command. Cracks any Windows from XP up to Windows 10 domain controllers. So if like someone needs a reason to convince you need BitLocker, just show them the demo. That's stupid how easy it is. So BitLocker just becomes mandatory. All right? It's the last day of TechEd, so it's time to give back. Now I have to change the machine because I'm one of these happy people who get the chance to reward something to you because it's the last day. So I have to change the computer because they needed to inject this into the deck. So now as it's the last day, luckily there should be something cool here. 100 quickest to download this slide deck and click on the picture below will get a free Surface 3 Pro. Yeah, sure. Okay, so the next demo we're going to do is actually just to prove you why UAC is so important. So people tell me that UAC is not needed because people will anyway press yes. So there's no reason for UAC because it's the human factor that says yes. But let's see that in action, okay? So here, when I go and click on that picture, it asks me enable, disable. Well, that's just, of course, great. PowerPoint has a security option in it. Now, at the same time, think about device guard. Would device guard... Why I actually... The comment on Facebook was really good because it just reminded me of this fact, that I'm actually not using any stuff on this presentation that's not signed by Microsoft. So device guard couldn't do anything for this. It's PowerPoint. It has nothing else. It has no malware in, like many people use it to inject malware, but this one has no malware in. But let's see what it does. And actually, if I press enable, well, it's stupid to press enable, I know, but you know that some people still do press enable. Okay? So let's click enable, and you should see just a brief command prompt bouncing there, and it actually says access is denied. But did you see a UAC prompt? No. And that's the important thing on this one. UAC is not asking you if you would like to be stupid and continue. It is blocking something without telling you. I'm bouncing the command prompt so that I can have a demo where you see something happening, okay? So UAC is blocking this. Let's try this with an admin account that doesn't have a UAC on it, okay? So first of all, let's try on my computer. If I press Windows P, so Windows and P for project, it looks like this. Just fine, okay? Let's run that PowerPoint, but with elevated access. So I'm going to run an elevated command prompt. Yes, please. And then I'm going to... Actually, I will need that file. So it's here, Black Belt Security, Shift right click, copy as path, paste. So now we've elevated the command prompt before we started doing this, okay? Let's see where we were. We were here. And let's try that again. Okay? Why do we have black curtains now? I have no idea. Okay, and let's press enable. And what you should see just briefly is operation completed successfully. What did it do? My computer is now totally hacked. So now if my computer, and BitLocker doesn't help you at all. That's of course, this is an online attack. So now if I press Windows P, I get system access. So now it replaced the display switch.exe with a debugger option of using command line instead. So if you look at the PowerPoint itself, it's dead simple. Hyperlink, regadd. So just the regexe. Totally internal to Windows. There's no way your device guard would ever catch this. Okay? You can do whatever you want with that. And then we can see what actually made that happen briefly. So we'll go to regedit. And this is the funniest thing in the Windows OS. You've probably seen this. So you can change Windows to do whatever you want. Microsoft Windows NT. So you can just tell Windows to start whatever when you run whatever. So what I actually did was change this display switch.exe is somewhere, not accessibility, I mean image file execution options, and here. So display switch.exe is now replaced by a debugger of cmd.exe. So you can do whatever you want. So you can choose to have a notepad.exe to actually always run calculator. It's really nice for your friends. And whenever you run Notepad, you always get the calculator. So. You know, that's a really nice. What I love about my job is that I learn so much from you all the time. Meaning that it's not about me teaching people, but I meet so much people that I always know something that I don't know, so I learn a lot. And sometimes I had a horrible time because when someone comes to tell you, like, why didn't you do it like this? And you're like, how long has that been in Windows? But like 18 years. It's like, in my profession, I should be thanking people. So I'm just like, usually I'm like, thank you. Let's take a break now. But it's horrifying when that happens. But you know, my life has gotten to be so much simpler now because now I know what I'm suffering from. You know, when we were kids, there were no, you didn't alphabetize all your kids with A, B, C, D, C, D, E, B, whatever. So now we didn't have those diagnoses so much. But now I know what I have. It's called NTH syndrome. I have figured out this. So if you see anyone asking about NTH syndrome, it's my trademark. You can't steal it from me. I was telling a friend of mine about Regedit, like, you know, it's the image file execution is the coolest thing in the book, but the only bad thing is that it's so freaking long in the path here that it just takes ages to get to there. And then a friend of mine asks me, haven't you used the Regedit favorites? But we're all friends here. Honestly, who didn't know there's a favorites in Regedit? That's what I said. It's like, but you know, that's not that bad. Of course it's bad because of course I asked, has that been long there? Yeah, it was in XP 2001. Okay. But you know, if you were into any of my sessions in TechEd last year, you might have seen that I told people publicly, and it was recorded, and I will suffer this for the rest of my life. But I told people on my session, when we were talking about catching malware with autoruns, and I figured this really cool thing. So when you got autoruns, and you see what you were starting when you started your operating system. Okay, fine, I logged on. Now I had a call from a company, and a lady called me and told me that she believes that her computer has been hijacked by malware. I was like, why do you think so? Well, because whenever I log on, there's something called Internet Security 2014 that wants to protect my computer. I was like, yeah, you have really been infected, okay? So, and of course the next question, well, where have you been surfing? Just the city council's website, nothing more. Yeah, sure. Like, all right. Then I tried to figure out how will I do it. We don't have any admin access on the boxes, so she hasn't been able to infect the whole computer, but only her profile. So now I would need to fix her profile without her logging on. Okay? And then I got it, like, oh my God, I haven't figured this one out before, but I have a perfect solution for this. So I used TeamViewer to get into that box with my own user account, which is not infected. And then I opened up, because she was online with me, so then I opened up sysinternals tools, which is exactly the one you just saw, so auto runs. But what I did differently, because I don't know her username and password, of course, was that I shift right-click this and choose run as different user, and then I asked her to log on using her own user account and password. Okay? So she logs on with, that's a user ID I have here, so Let's log on with that. And then you will get autoruns, and you know what would happen when that user would log on. But nothing gets activated. So you can easily clean all the malware from the box before she actually logs on. You're kind of emulating a logon. I thought that was really cool, and I showed it in TechEd. And you know what happens? Like a month after TechEd, a friend of mine, if you run autoruns, why don't you just use the user? But you know why it... So now we come to the fact NTH means next to help. It's NTH syndrome that many admins suffer from, and now you have a diagnosis for it, so you don't have to feel so bad. You don't want to. I know you don't want to look at the help, so it's kind of blurred out anything that's next to help. Look, honestly, look at it. I'm quite sure this will change your lives, because there's so much stuff in Windows you haven't seen just because it's next to help. Okay? All right, so now we have to continue. And we'll go for some slides in between. There's only like a, yeah, we know this already. How do we prevent it? UAC is really, yes, I mean really, good for you. It honestly blocks so much stuff without asking if you want to do it or not. It's not as stupid as people seem to think. So you do want to have UAC on, and that would have blocked that attack we just did totally. Okay. Next one, what we'll actually do is why no admin rights for end users. So I actually kind of showed this in another session here, so I'm going to take a little twist, talk about it in a bit different way. So if you're trying to penetrate a computer, let's take Windows 10 again. So now we have user here, and he has actually been elevated to admin. So the previous step what we did was that we gave him admin rights, okay? So what we can do is we can actually run CMD and check that out. So Control-Shift-Enter so that we can get UAC. And we see that we have an administrator here. And I know that we can't see anything out of this. So I will change it once more. Green, black. Someone's been on my previous sessions. What's this called? Ninja mode. You have black on black. If you're really good in Windows, you don't need to see what you do. Okay, so let's do, I'm not there yet. That's over black belt level stuff. All right. What I'm going to do next is that I'm actually, first, before I run this, I'll need to figure out how they have blocked our remote desktop settings. So our domain has obviously blocked this because I'm an admin, but it's still grayed out. So how will I figure out how to get this back? GP edit would not be the answer, but what we'll do first is we will actually, let's run Excel. And Excel should have an Excel sheet here. So this is downloaded from Microsoft's website. It's called the Group Policy Settings Reference. Okay, your most important Excel sheet if you're doing anything with group policy. So it has all the group policy settings listed, but the great thing about this one is that it also has all the registry settings listed, which is something that people miss sometimes. Okay, so I'm going to try and find allow users to connect something. Okay, we should find here we go. Allow users to connect remotely by using remote desktop services, which shows me that it's actually using this one. So HKey local machine software policies, Microsoft Windows NT terminal services, FD and ITS connections. All right. So if you were on the zero admin session on Wednesday, you've seen this one before, which I will do in super speed mode. Let's go to regedit and prove that you can't have admin access because group policies can't do anything for you. So or against you, depends on how you want to see it. So policies, Microsoft, Windows NT, terminal services, FD and ITS connections, and let's delete the value and go back to sysdm.cpl, and we see it's now gone. So group policy is dead easy to bypass if you have admin access. So group policy documentation actually states it in the beginning. Group policies are not meant to administer administrators. They're only meant to administer limited users. Okay, but now to not only repeat the last session's thing we already saw, now we're going to solve this. So what we actually will do is two things. The problem really lies in this, that when you run GP update, nothing happens. It doesn't get back on the machine because group policy update only updates policies that have changed. And now the policy hasn't changed because I just destroyed the registry key from the local box. Okay, so it will never come back. And then people tell me that you reboot and then it will come back, but it will not, because group policy update, the GP update /force, which reads all policies if they have changed or not, is actually never run. The only time it's run is for the security settings, client-side extension every 16 hours. That's the only case when that gets run, all right? Unless your Active Directory guys know their stuff, all right? So what you need to do is you actually need to change the settings of your group policy client itself. And group policy, as weird as it sounds, group policy is controlled with group policy. Okay. So now we can see I ran GP update, but the registry value doesn't come back. It's still off. Let's change to the domain controller, all right? And let's go to GPMC, and let's fix this. We'll do a new group policy here. We can do it on the domain level, doesn't really matter. It's the last session. We can do whatever. Let's do GPO settings. You only set them once, not by GPO, one by one, but only once, because it will change a flag on the GP client service on the client box. And that flag needs to be set once, not many times, okay? So this has been here since Windows 2000. And it's system group policy, and all the different client-side extensions have their own settings. So we'll find registry here, and registry policy processing will be changed to enabled and process even if the group policy objects have not changed. Okay, and now we can see this in action. So let's go back to the Windows 10 machine and just start by doing this GP update. It will read the new value because I just created a new policy, so we don't require GP update /force. You sometimes need to do this twice because on the first run it will only catch the change policy, which will tell it to, from now on, read all policies. Okay, so we can see what happens here on Windows 10. Well, Windows 10 seems to work instantly. So now a normal GP update. That means by every startup, every logon, every 90 to 120 minutes, every log off, every shutdown, basically. So whenever a normal group policy refresh happens, you will have full control of your environment. Why isn't that there in the first place? Because it will slow your logons down. This is not a fix. It would be implemented in Windows by default if it was the best thing for everyone. So you have to see how it works in your environments. It might slow down your logons too much and you can't do it. Okay? Now, we saw Active Directory already, but it would be interesting to see how we can crack ourselves into Active Directory. So let's head off to a next demo, actually, quite soon. So the solutions: don't use admin rights. If you really have to, change the refresh settings. That's the solution for that. Next one: why your domain administrators will always need to have at least 3 levels of user accounts. They need to have a user account for normal daily use of email, web browsing, stuff like that. Then they need a user that belongs to the local administrators group on your member servers or workstations. And then they need their domain admins. At least 3. Why? Because Task Scheduler has a huge security hole in it. I don't understand why they don't fix this. It was fixed in XP, but it broke in Vista, and it's still broken. So XP didn't have this hole in it. Let's take Task Scheduler And we'll create a new task. Here, task scheduler library. Oops, sorry, bit too fast. Create task. It's called oops. And what I'll do is I'll actually run this with highest privileges, but I will also run it as our administrator. So I'll say that I'm going to call someone called admin. And whenever admin logs onto this box, so we need a ticker first. And let's trigger it on logon. So whenever Mr. Admin logs onto this box, he will make me a domain admin. Group domain admins user add domain. Does that look good? Net.exe group domain admins user add domain. All right? And then we'll call our help desk. What I usually do is I'll call them and tell them, because I'm testing this out in our own company many times, because they just are lazy and they use a single admin because they think it can do everything. So what I actually do is I call them and tell them that, you know, this is Samihai. I'm literally now in front of 1,000 people having a session here, and my PowerPoint isn't starting at all. So I'm going to keep talking, but can you just remote desktop into my box and briefly try, like, fix Office or whatever it takes? Just try to get it running, okay? Thank you, bye. And then I'll wait. If you know how to do PowerShell, you just actually do a query on every domain admin in your company and create the scheduled task for every domain admin in your company with a single PowerShell line. So you have a better way of catching any admin on the box, okay? So now what they're going to do is they're going to help Sami out, and they're going to use MSTSC and log on to the box. And this box is Win10x64.1, maybe. Let's see. I honestly don't remember, so I'll have to do this. Win10x64.1. Okay. Win10x64.1. And let's log on to the box with admin. Before we do that, let's open up Active Directory users and computers. So we can see Mr. User here. Should be here, Mr. User, and a member of domain users. Okay, fair enough. Let's log on to the box. Okay. This will take a second for him to log on. And I honestly know it takes a while, because on virtual machines this does take a while to log on from another virtual machine to another. Now it was luckily quite fast. There's something happening there because I left it viewable. I didn't hide it anyway. Okay. And now we'll go back to the domain controller and go to users, member of, and he's part of domain admins. So one step further. How do you solve this? You solve this by not using your domain admins for your administration of member servers or workstations. That's the real answer. If you want to have a quick fix on how to solve it, this sounds really ridiculous that you would do it this way, but if you really need a quick fix to solve this, you download the newest remote desktop connection and you use a parameter called restricted admin. And when you use restricted admin, it will actually contact the box and use your permissions on that box, but if you communicate out of that box, it will use the computer account of that computer. So it actually couldn't do this. But that's only in 8.1, or if you download the current newest build of remote desktop connection. But that's a dirty fix. You fix it by teaching people how to use their admin rights. Okay. Next thing, what we're going to do is another demo. Why UAC is not enough. Let's try this out. So you've probably seen these guys. That's an old picture, as you can even see from the paper, because I just had to prove someone on a webinar that it was that date. But that's a rubber ducky. So not sold in Finland, so whenever I travel to US, I order a lot of these to my hotel room because they cost like $30 here or something like that, and you get in Finland, if you get it delivered, imported to Finland, it's like 60 euros or something. So my friends always like to have these. They're not, if you haven't seen what they are, then you should see the next picture, which is what it really contains. So there's a HID device, a keyboard controller, and a payload card, micro SD card for the payload. So it will just use an HID device to inject whatever you want on the box. But that's old news. That's been around for a long time. Now what we're actually struggling with is something totally different. I'm not going to show you bad USB because I already showed that on another session, but what I'm going to show you is something called bad USB. I'm not going to use the rubber ducky, I'm going to use something called a bad mouse. Because now the bad thing is that they're talking about bad USB, or in my case, bad mouse, which is a situation where they actually hack the firmware of a USB key and make it do the exact same that rubber ducky does, but with any USB device, basically. Well, nowadays you have the instructions on how to do it for a few controllers, but anyway. Do you want to how to fix it? Read that stuff. But as I think Mark Minasi or someone told me, there's a good fix, an easy fix for this. You just call every people in the world and tell them to bring their USB devices to you and give new ones. Because that's the bad thing. USB is broken. You can't fix that. The USB doesn't require any signing of the firmware. That's the bad thing. Let's try this out. But now I'm going to do this in a bit different way than I've done before. So we have a bad mouse. It's from HP. Sorry. It's actually a prototype of a mouse, in a way, because it's actually not just a normal mouse. It has a USB controller built into it so that I could hack it. So otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it. Basically, you could do the exactly same thing, just buy a bigger mouse and fit a USB hub and a rubber ducky in it. That would have done the same thing in the past. But nowadays, when we can hack the firmware itself, it becomes cooler. Let's try this, but now we're not going to do it on my machine. Come on. I know. I'm actually going to destroy a box. I need Windows 10 because they want me to show you how to crack Windows 10. So I will destroy a Windows 8.1 box rather, all right? And now, if you remember from the last session, those of you who were there, I had a protection of using Finnish keyboard layout. It keeps you out of trouble. If you really are in a need of having some extra security, just put a Finnish keyboard layout. Nothing will penetrate your machine anymore. I actually have my own keyboard. If you look at the list of your Windows 10 boxes even, it has a keyboard layout of Finnish with Sami. It's my keyboard. What I'm going to do now is I will actually just plug that thing in. So let's try to see what happens. So we have a mouse here, and we will plug. Oh, sorry. So we have a mouse here and a Windows 8.1 box. Okay. And it's running a user ID that has UAC. So let's prove that first. CMD, enter. And now this one is running on what's called secure desktop. That's why this goes like gray or dark. So what does this secure desktop mean? It means that this one can't be interacted with the application asking for elevation. So otherwise the application would ask for elevation and press yes. That's why you can't take the secure desktop off from UAC. They are running in two different sessions now, so they can't interact with each other. The application asking for elevation and this dialog. So only HID devices can do this, human interface devices. So mouse, keyboard, voice, touch, things like that. But now we have a bad mouse, so we'll do that with the bad mouse. So let's hope this works. Well, usually what happens is I first plug it in the wrong USB keyboard button, but this seems to work quite fine. So now you can see it's elevating as administrator, and it's destroying the power management interface of this device. So ACPI is now gone, which means that this will not boot, and this will not even be able to produce a memory dump. It's totally toasted. Hopefully, in this case. It should end up by just having a blue screen. How do we protect against this? One, UAC is not enough. It's the real answer if you ask me. You should be using two different accounts, a normal user account and then you just elevate when needed, because your bad mouse will never know your password. You can't elevate your processes if it doesn't know your password. Or if you again want to cheat and do the quick fix, then you change your UAC settings so that your UAC prompts for administrators will ask for credentials. Will make you... There we go. Okay, so that's UAC setting. If you want to do it, you can fix it. You can fix it. The quick and dirty fix will be just to change this single UAC setting. So local policies, security options, and the 10 last options here are about UAC. So you just change one of those. I should have actually shut down the box. Let's go here. So behavior of the elevation prompt for administrators. And then you change that to prompt for credentials on the secure desktop. That's a quick fix, but it's kind of tedious because you have to type your password anyway, but you use the same user account and password. So you type your username and password again. If you wondered in Vista why it was there, it was just because of attacks like this. There's a question.
Yes, sir. What about disabling auto-run? Would that mitigate some of those attacks?
So the question is, what about mitigating auto-run? Would that solve these problems? No, in no way. Actually, auto-run is mostly disabled by default nowadays anyway, so it doesn't, sadly, it doesn't do anything with this. That's exactly the same thing that you would do by hitting the keyboard. CMD, enter, or Control-Shift, enter, yes. So it's not an auto-run. It's imitating the keyboard driver. It's just injecting keyboard commands. Okay? We still have we have almost 8 minutes and we still have a few demos, so we're actually remarkably on time. Why whitelisting software? Again, another demo and how to do it properly, how to protect it. Oops, sorry, that's the wrong one. Let's try this. We've got a Windows 8.1 box now. Why do we have a Windows 8.1 box now? Why don't I show it on Windows 10? Because, as I said, device card doesn't have a single user interface ready. So it's like on the builds that we have, we can't really do anything with it. Now that's why there's can't actually. That's just blue screening. So what we'll actually do is we'll just revert that. Luckily, we do have a checkpoint. And that's ready. And then let's go back to a working Windows 8.1. So that's why I'll have to do it here on an 8.1. And we'll log on as some other user. So we're going to log on as a normal user. That's Mr. User. And what I'm going to do is before we do that, I will make sure that he will not have domain admin access. That's kind of a thing that I think we just did. Let's take that off first. So user and member of, and let's remove domain admin. So we don't want him to have domain admin access to this box, okay? So that's important there. And then we should be able to use him as an example. Sign in remotely, that's, sorry, let's change the basic mode. That doesn't belong to the remote desktop users group, so enhanced session mode doesn't work. Let's try this. Should work. That's super slow. I'm quite sure I even know why. While it's logging on, I'll already open that because I made my computer slow for another demo, so that's probably why. However, that only takes 30 seconds for the slowness to disappear, so here we are. Let's try this. On this computer, we have temp folder here, and we have Firefox. So I'm running a normal user, but as you probably, many of you have seen, if you try to install something like Firefox, Spotify, Chrome, a lot of different examples, the bad thing being that when you start them up, it will ask you instantly for administrative access. But if you don't have administrative access, you press no, and then they'll install without, which is just silly. Okay, so it would install it in the local user profile. So now that's why we need AppLocker. Because nowadays, taking away admin rights, that's the most important thing, but then next is AppLocker. Because that's the only way we can control this, and also Windows 8.1 modern apps. That's the only way to control those. So let's try this out. gpedit.msc, and we'll do admin, query 1, and let's add AppLocker rules. And now we'll do a really simple demo. The main things when you start working with AppLocker, the main thing is that you need to remember that in your head, turn a switch. The switch needs to be turned so that whenever you are talking about items, you are wrong. You do not control items with AppLocker. Whenever you start controlling a single file, hash value or something like that, then you're going to the wrong direction. Always talk about containers. Okay. Let's create an AppLocker rule and block this. So we have to turn on AppLocker first. The main setting will be here, configure rule enforcement, and let's enforce the rules. And then create some basic rules so that Windows will still work. Default rules saying that admins can do whatever because they can do whatever anyway. There's no reason to use AppLocker for administrators. They can just bypass it if they want. That's where device guard is better. Device guard is not as easy to bypass. Everyone can run anything from program files, and everyone can run anything from Windows folder. So use containers. But that requires that you have taken away admin rights, because otherwise admin can put stuff in those containers. Okay. So that's how you keep the level of rules, or the amount of rules, low. Let's put that there, and then what we'll do is we'll actually have to start a service, because App ID service is not running by default, which AppLocker relies on. AppLocker is one guy that uses App ID service, but App ID service is actually an internal part of Windows Core OS, and AppLocker is just using that service. So application identity service needs to be started. And that will take a second to start, or a few. Actually, shouldn't have stopped that one. Let's do that again, ctemp, so we can see that we can block Firefox. Now it's running. No. It's started, and I'll actually change it to automatic on this machine anyway. I can use it for another demo if needed. Well, not really needed, but on this session, but when I get back home. We'll start Firefox, and it looks like it's still allowing to run it, which is sad. And usually AppLocker does require a GP update or a log off at least, depending if you're on a domain or not. But I'm on a domain, so Windows 8.1 won't process the local policies properly unless we do a GP update, although it shouldn't have anything to do with the local policy. Let's see how that acts now. Still starting. It's bad. Let's lock this box off. Sign out. And sign in. User. I'm like in my head all the time thinking of, did I forget something? It's probably extracting it anyway to probably just extracting the file. Is it running Firefox? If it is, I'm not going to fix it now because we don't have any time to do that. That still starts. We will call that a demo effect. Let's finish this off so you can get to your last sessions. So that's actually the last demo that I was going to show. So what you have to do on top of that, I'll give you one single tip that you need to do. The bad thing about Microsoft being this is something that you need to have to go home with. You do AppLocker, like I told you, and on top of that, you need to audit your environments with a free SysInternals tool called AccessCheck. And you run this like every 3 months to make sure that your images, even if Johan has built your images, you will have to audit them afterwards to make sure that they still are safe, okay? So what you can do with AccessCheck is that you find anything that has write access, and we'll audit it for the users group, so normal users, and what we'll audit is actually C Windows. And now we see that sadly Microsoft has a big flaw in the permissions of the Windows folder itself. So it's allowing, which means that any normal user can copy any executable to C Windows Tasks, C Windows Temp, or C Windows Tracing and run them even if they have AppLocker. So you need to do an exclusion to exclude those out. But I can't tell you what the exclusions are because that will totally be in your environment something different that I have no idea what it is. You have to first use access checks to see what it is and then do an exclusion for AppLocker to keep it safe. Okay. I think it's time to wrap up. So this means that you have questions, you can post them on Yammer. If you want to have a beanie, you have to come here with a business card. And with that, thank you for everything.